speaker.
Okay, I'm green. Me with envy.
Right, Mark, you're.
Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Cicero Planning Board meeting. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Abbey, would you lead us off? Thank you. And we will open the meeting like we always do for public input. If there's anybody here that would like to address the board on any active application, please come forward. Just note that we do have a public hearing scheduled for the subdivision on Island Road. So if you want to comment on that, I would ask that you wait until we open that public hearing. So with that, is there anybody that would like to address the board? Given nobody is approached, we will close the public input. Approval of the minutes from the November 3rd meeting. Everybody's had a chance to review. Mr. Snyder's found nothing, so they're perfect again.
Be approved as printed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Aceto,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Absolutely.
Mr. Bloss,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion to approve the minutes has passed. And we will go to the first item on the agenda, which is the Island Road public hearing that I mentioned. This is for a minor subdivision. Mr. Dudzinski, welcome back. Again.
It's always a pleasure. Chet Tazinski, 7169 Island Road, requesting a 1 acre subdivision out of a 41.26 acre farm at 7172 Island Road.
With that, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on this particular item? Nobody approaching. We'll close the public hearing. We'll go for board questions. Mr. Rosito,
Oh, I'm all set. Thank you.
for Abby,
I'm all set also.
Snyder,
All set.
Mr. Bloss.
All set.
I'm all set as well. Mr. Rosito, would you propose the standard seeker?
I propose our standard seeker, and that's a formal motion.
Second.
Mr. Rosito,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey,
Yes,
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Bloss,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Seeker passes. Neil, would you propose a motion for approval, please?
completing the application known as minor subdivision. Following one. Applicant shall address these comments. It will be on the planning board prior to submitting the applicant is advised that pursuant to section 1. Applicant, this is the 90-day plan.
Let me just check. Mr. Mirza, did you have anything? Steve,
All set.
Neil, or Mark, anything?
No, Neil's addressed the
I-
need for
I
the
put it
issues
in
in
the motion.
the motion.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
You've got 9 seconds. Who did that? Mr. Rosito, Mr. Rosito,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey,
Yes,
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Bloss,
Yes.
and I vote yes. You're all set.
Were there issues with, from Mark that needed to be addressed?
Yeah, you'll need to take care of those. They need submitted, it's labeled preliminary to get their.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you'll need to have your surveyor take care of.
All I need to do is have the surveyor send it to Steve.
Yes, the revised.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a proposed restaurant site plan for property at State Route 31. Flavors Restaurant, Diane Maida.
We're gonna do something a little different tonight. We're gonna start off with the architecture. A little more current than-
You want to hand them out?
We're gonna start the architecture.
Good evening. My name is Joe Perino. I'm the architect for Flavors Restaurant. Good to see you all again. Could you go to the could be yeah, there it is. Here. Oh. So we
Excuse me one second. Can you use the mic? Got people at home and in the building. Thank you.
yeah, I like to
There
walk
you go.
and
Now you're
talk.
free to walk.
Yeah. Okay. Is that better?
Much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the building, right now, we've picked the colors. We've shown you this elevation before, and we've kind of developed it a little bit further. We selected all of the wood siding and the stone and the stain and the trim colors. We brought those here just to show you what we're thinking. And this is kind of what we selected. Kind of earth tones. The stone is, we were going to go with that whiter one, but we changed that to this kind of a brownish. And that'll be along the base, just basically in the front, and bases for the columns. Not too much stone. Brown timberline architectural shingle. And the trim color, as you can see in there, is a little bit of a gray, brownish gray, and a cream color for the siding. And the stone will also be up in the chimney area. So we have two chimneys. One is for a fireplace and one is for hiding all of the vents for the hood in the kitchen. So that'll come up through there. It's kind of hidden by the tree there. But if you can go to the floor plan. I think it's one up, yeah. So that front elevation basically is looking from the bottom of the page. We have a vestibule required. I don't know what happened. Code required. And then we'll have a maitre d' area, waiting area, code area. We added, we do now have a mechanical engineer on board, Bill Fiegel, Fiegel Engineering, and we talked about, where to best put sprinkler room and mechanicals and where all of our plumbing and things will go. We've added a sprinkler room off of the entrance here so that our fireman connection, Siamese connection will be here. And we'll be working with the fire department to make sure that that's a adequate location. We have our toilet rooms here. We have a janitor's closet. We have our water meter would be coming in here. But in the main areas, there's a dining room down the center. We'll have a cathedral ceiling that will basically look from the front out through the back with all the glass that's on the facade. Bar room will be on the left side here with some booths, a bar area, fireplace, and a little sitting area. And then more tables and chairs out here in a booth. This area here is mainly for beer cooler and liquor storage. And that'll have its own entrance for, the trucks from TJ Sheehan and all them. On the right side is the kitchen, also public bathrooms, employee bathroom, employee or office, and basically kitchen and coolers and all the inner workings, back of house stuff. And then in the back, on the right side here, this is going to be a banquet room. The banquet room, the bar, and the dining room will have a patio. The only covered patio is in the center, and the only covered area out here for waiting is in the center. These will not be covered, but they'll be small. I think it was like 16 feet to 14 feet deep. Probably have a fire pit out here for sitting. We're really not planning on having big outdoor eating areas. In today's post-COVID world, you always got to have the outdoor eating. So we do show that. But this area back here, this is not for outdoor eating. This is just basically for, all the cigarette smokers that need to go outside, have a cigarette during a wedding or something. So all of this faces towards the ponds in the back area. So we showing occupancy, and this is New York State code. And we get to almost 200 people inside. And it's about 40 people on the outside. So that's our total occupancy based on area from the New York State code and the amount of square foot per occupant. I think that's that was all I had to present. Turn it over to Keplinger Freeman and.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll rock with this. I'm Christian from Keplinger Freeman Associates. I'd like to thank the board for having us here and for Mark Parrish getting those comments to us. So I'm just going to go through sort of where we're at with the comment letter, and then we can get into a discussion if that suits. So this is our second round of comments from Mark in the past couple weeks. This one was received on Friday, so we're turning this around kind of quick, which is why I passed out the little plans you have in front of you. They're a little bit more updated. So as far as the SWIP goes, we have no outstanding comments from Mark currently. I'm going through the comment letter now. This is item 1. In addition to that, we know we need to be in touch with New York State DOT. I've been back and forth with Jeff. We're part through on the PERM 33 currently, and still working with some utility coordination. We've added an erosion control plan to our set, which we submitted today to Heidi. I don't have that one printed in front of you. It's standard. We can continue to review that as we get further along. The item 2 is again the DOT comment. So Jeff and I have been in touch. We'll keep moving forward with that. Item number 3. So the sewers we initially showed on the last submission we were thinking of doing an easement. And we talked with Mr. Parrish, and he mentioned that since the project is just for the restaurant currently, he was advising the sewer stay private. There would be no easement, and we would be building that just to where it passes in the building. There'd still be that manhole there for a potential future connection, but that would be completely done under a separate project. So for this, it would just be that private sewer. We removed the kinks, there's no bends, and we added cleanouts per his review. This is all, of course, pending our coordination with WEP, which we'll get into once we have a little more information from Fugel Engineering. Item 4, the next one, it's sort of the same comment. we have to get with Aqua and review the water location coming out of the building. It's moved a little bit here and there because we again need to talk to the MEP and get on that. No comment for item number 5, the lighting, no problems there. 5B, the sign has been moved back to 20 feet. That's all set now. And 6, no wetlands, no problem there. Item 7, the floodplain, we have no building in there. So as far as that goes, I can open that up to questions, or we could get into an overview if you have any general ideas you need to get clarification on.
Go through questions, Mr. Rosito?
First of all, looks great. Like coming home from work, going into your house to have dinner. You said capacity
Joe,
about
can you-
200
Joe, can you,
in here. Yeah. You can go into the, or the inside capacity is 200, outside 40. Would you typically plan on having banquet and the restaurant at the same time? So you would be near that capacity?
So I'm going to lean on the architect for this one. I believe the general idea is that the bank would be for,
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a rare occasion that would happen. But, you know, I mean, it could, it's not, if somebody's going to be having a wedding there, then I'm sure that she's not going to, you know, be making too many. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, what's the maximum capacity? And that's why I gave you that.
Okay.
That is the maximum capacity that based on square footage. And I didn't count chairs, you know what I mean? Because if you count chairs, it's a lot less, because maximum capacity in the code is based on 15 square foot per person, okay? You know, that's pretty tight. But to make a comfortable dining room and things, it usually, you know, it ends up, you know, and this is not gonna be, you know, big bands or anything or concerts where it's gonna be standing room only. That's not happening here, so.
in that capacity, the capacity, it also includes employees in that number as well.
Yeah, that includes the kitchen based on their square foot number. You know, and the whole place is gave you that chart.
Thank you.
Mr. Abbey?
I agree with Joe that this is going to be a very nice restaurant for, for a town of Cicero would be great. I had a couple of quick questions. I don't remember seeing a drawing or a description of the signage. What is the plan there of the sign itself?
Right, we have a small detail on that, but I believe for the signage, do we want to do that one in the? Yeah, we have a pretty rough detail, but we need to take that further along. I think that's maybe
Okay.
next on our list to develop here.
All right, so I look forward to seeing that.
On our, if you go to our front elevation,
Oh, back to the architect.
on the architectural drawing, no, so that is the pylon sign out by the, out, if you can see that, out
Okay.
by the road right here, right? They have a little roof on it, but this sign is gonna be the same one that you'll see on, go to that front elevation. I don't know if you can zoom in, but see that sign right there? That is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right there. See the Flavors Restaurant
Mhm.
and then the logo on it.
So it'll look like that.
That doesn't look like that.
Okay, is that exterior lighting then? Or is it interior?
No, it'll be a light that'll be shining. So
Okay.
it won't be internally illuminated. Won't have the uplights that we.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's, we already included that in our photometric plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then, on the drawing you mentioned in the garden area, it's to be fenced. What's your plan on the type of fencing?
So if you go down just a little there you go. Right under it. So it's pretty simple. It'd just be a square wooden post driven and then having sort of a plastic vinyl fence. It's like little squares. It's a visual deterrent, so it's not a hazard for someone who has poor sight, but it's also firm enough to keep out deer. And it's easy to tack and retack and repair in the event of it being pulled down or anything like that.
Okay. All righty, thank you. And lastly, I know we asked this last time, but what are the hours again?
What are the hours?
Yes.
Oh, if you go to the layout plan, I think they're listed there. They're on a little chart that I've given you on sheet L2. I believe they're in the left box. Yeah,
It is, it's on that sheet.
yep. And
I can't read it.
I'd love to rattle them off for you, but I can't.
Okay. Take your word for it. I can't.
Let me
can't
see. I
read
got
it.
a set right here.
Oh,
now.
Tuesday through
They're on
Friday.
stage.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, 11 to 12, 11
Yeah.
to 12, closed Monday.
Okay, so it's the lunch and dinner, basically.
Yeah, and a bar.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Hmm.
Look forward to seeing it.
And while we're talking about fencing, there was an existing complaint about the fence that's currently up on site. We met with Steve on site. We determined that that fence would have to come down because it's not compliant. So the owner has already started taking that down. So there'll be a fresh new fence with that per that detail that was on the sheet for the garden areas to keep the deer out.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
How tall's the fence?
The existing one or the
No,
proposed?
the one, I don't care about the existing, the one you're putting up.
I believe we're gonna go with 6 feet.
Yeah, they can.
I hear they can do 15 feet, but I don't think we're gonna pay for that.
I think it's a great plan. My only concern, I always have two concerns. One is parking and the other is snow removal. I let our chairman take care of the landscape, because he's really good at that. You say you have 84 parking spaces, 2 people come in every car. So if my math is right, and I'm an old guy, so I don't do good at math, that's like 168 people. So if we have between 200 and 240 people, you said that does include the 200, 240 includes the employees. I'm just wondering if we're
Underparked.
a little shy on parking.
It's a challenge. Yeah, that'd be up for debate, I suppose. I think with the location of the contours and the way that we've located the current plan for the wet swales and the stormwater management, this is sort of the best we can do in this scenario. We could look at adding a few more spaces, perhaps down in the garden area, but then we're pushing that garden area out, and I know the owners already have some things established there as it's an existing condition currently. So moving that might not be ideal.
And, snow, obviously, where the dumpsters are, you can't blow it off at that point, but on the other side, which is, would be the west side, you can obviously blow the snow off into the area.
Yep.
At the end of that. And I guess you can also plow snow, up towards the maintenance building. So I guess that won't be as big a problem as I'm thinking, but, for example, where you have, the parking on the east end, where the dumpsters are, is the parking, the end of the parking, is that delineated with a curb or is it ground level?
It's flush, be a flush condition. So you could.
Okay, so you
could
can plow snow
Sweep
in
off
there.
the side.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, okay. I guess I'm good for now. Thank you.
Use the banquet room and the restaurant in full use would be an infrequent event. And I think that's, parking for a restaurant is difficult. And just to say that we're going to have every seat inside, outside the banquet room fully occupied is kind of not the direction we wanted to go. We wanted to really embrace the site. And I think from the original plan, which we started off with 50 parking spaces, we got it up to 80, 84. So I think, we're coming in and, we're really looking for the approval on the plan the way you see. We're really, I take your guidance and leadership, but based on the use and square footage, is there anything you want to add, Joe? I mean, you could explain the inner uses.
It's not always 2 people per car. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 1, right? The employees are probably going to show up by themselves. Parking requirements around the country are coming down. They're making them less restrictive, and in many cities, they're getting rid of them because Uber is so prevalent now. And people are driving their cars less. So the trend nationwide is to not even have parking requirements anymore, coming up with a reasonable solution. Like you guys don't have a parking requirement for the town. So we're coming back with, we use three persons per car. And we felt that that was a reasonable amount because, if we are totally full, then we'll come back and add some parking. But, we want to get this restaurant up and running and with keeping the cost down, obviously, to spend it on equipment and things like that, to get the restaurant, to get people there. And then, if there's a problem down the road where cars are out in the road, I'm sure we'll deal with it then, but that'd be a great problem to have. So,
Yeah, well, but I hear you saying that you probably would not have a full banquet, wedding and running the restaurant at the same time.
No.
If you would,
No.
you might have different hours. You may not, in fact, open the restaurant that day
Right.
if you have a big wedding, because the kitchen can only handle so much work. So I
absolutely.
think that
Yeah.
helps determine the number of car parking. So I think that probably would be okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else?
Mr. B?
Mr. Blas.
I'm all set, thank you.
All my questions have been answered. Thanks for addressing the existing fence.
Sure.
Mr. Marizio?
Thanks.
Mr. Procopio? Remain? Aaron,
All set, thank you.
we good to go? All right. Joe, would you propose a standard seeker?
Yes, I propose our standard seeker, and that's a form of a motion.
Second?
Mr. Rossito?
Yes.
Mr. Abbey?
Yes,
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Blas?
Yes,
And I vote yes, seekers pass. Neil, would you propose a motion for approval, please?
7.3 proposed restaurant.
Or a motion, I move.
Second.
Second. Mr. Rossito?
Yes.
Mr. Abbey?
yes. I'm also curious, what type of time frame are we looking at?
In terms of construction,
Yes,
as soon as possible.
okay,
Good answer.
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Blas?
yes.
And I vote yes. Good luck with it. Next item on the agenda is site plans. This is a proposed existing building renovation for the property at 8762 Brewerton Road.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. I reviewed the,
Can you just give your name for the record, please?
oh, yeah, Robert Schenfeld, Mercantile, owner of Mercantile Studio. I reviewed the letter that I received, and I think that pretty much addressed everything that was on there. We're going to do a small planting in the front of the building, not, just right near the beginning of or near the entrance of the building. The dumpster shows at the end of the parking lot, and we added the handicap parking, and then a small sign out in the front near the road. Pretty much it. For, simple operation, then not really much of the public, except for sometimes we have, shows of what we're doing, but that would probably be just a couple times a year, 2-3 times a year. So basically, we're, not open to the public.
Mr. Rosito,
All set, thank you.
Mr. Abbey.
I noticed that they suggest putting a above-ground septic system in.
Yeah. Yeah, when they did the perk test, it was all clay and there was water coming up through. So to the back side of the building facing the highway is where they're putting the raised septic system in. But we only have 4 employees, so there's 2 public bathrooms and 1 employee bathroom, so, and then a kitchenette. So they didn't think that they really needed, a massive sewage or septic system.
I notice out front is where the lamplighter is.
Yes,
What do they do, do you know? For
they
septic?
they have their leach field is actually, you see how our property runs around to the left there?
Okay,
Their leach field is right in that that section right in the middle there. And I believe that it was probably grandfathered in quite a while ago as a,
been there a long time.
yeah, it's been there a long time. Yeah.
And that'll do it. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Snyder,
I'm good.
Lost.
I'm all set.
The apron out at the road.
Yes, they're gonna widen that. I've talked with Mr. Deep and Depp, I believe it is, and he has sent a letter actually with a conceptual approval of the design that we did there. They're going to widen that apron and then pave, I think it's 30 feet. If we can do it now, otherwise it'll be in the spring.
We typically require 50 feet.
Or 50 feet, yeah. I don't know what the DOT said there. There was a recommendation on there. 50 feet is fine. We're gonna pave probably mostly the whole thing and the parking area.
So as
It would
long
make
as they-
sense to do that.
What's that?
It would make sense for me to do the whole parking, and the road.
So is that the
paved.
plan then?
Yes,
Yeah, I guess that's not what the plan shows. I mean,
No.
it's shows 30 feet from the road, and then it shows the area in front of the building.
right.
Basically, this hatched out area is the only area that's
Right.
on the plan as to be paved. Yeah, so that's what the plan shows. That's what you would be approving at this point.
So the plan would need to be reflective
Well,
of,
I mean, if that, I'm not sure, we would have to change that, is what you're saying?
correct.
Yeah.
Mark, actually, you want to go through your list? I think that
Yeah,
might
I
be
mean,
beneficial.
yeah, there's a few things here. We've talked about the access. Water. But basically, we've asked at least twice for the applicant's engineer to provide details on improvements, which is pretty typical. Things like dumpster screening, fencing, pavement sections, et cetera. And even signage and such for the handicap spaces. And they haven't been provided. For whatever reason, the answer basically was, we'll do that when we put out a construction package, but it's typical that this board gets that information as part of the site plan, so it hasn't been provided, to date. The other issue that came up is in this last plan. Previous iteration of the plan showed a dumpster over in this location. We suggested that it's not a great location for it to be accessed. So they did move the dumpster down into the parking lot over here, but now a storage shed is shown back here. And I don't think it's got the appropriate setback from the property line. It's not dimensioned, so I can't tell, but I think, Steve, 15 feet is what's required. I mean, if this is a 10 by 12 shed, that's not going to be 15 feet. So,
So you recommend pushing it around at the back of the building?
well, it needs to be pushed back at least to meet the setback.
And show
requirement.
the setback, show the dimension.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, I mean, and again, I don't know how your operations run, but so in order to access that shed, they're showing a long gravel strip along the edge of the building to get back here, to get back to that shed. So I don't know. It seems to me there could be a better location for that shed and we wouldn't. One, you get a better, you could meet the setback requirements, and two, you could get rid of this long gravel drive through here. So at this point, I don't know that the plan's really ready for approval. I think, you know, these details should be provided and we should address these.
Well, the reason why the long gravel driveway is occasionally we get deliveries of clay. And so we were planning on an access door at the back of the building for our deliveries for clay. We pick them up ourselves. We have a, you know, regular cargo van, and it's, instead of dragging it, you know, the clay and everything through the whole building, we figured it would be easier to take it back to the side road. And the reason for the shed being there is we plan to have a like a, not like a lawnmower, but like a machine that would take and put our garbage cans in and take them all, it's a long distance and we have heavy waste at sometimes, you know, tiles and whatever. So we needed a machine to take the garbage from the back of the building where the production is, or the manufacturing is, to the dumpster, which is quite a distance away now.
Is there an opening? Is there a
There's going to be a door there, yeah, at the back.
somewhere in here?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we were gonna have that, move the front door to the back, but the access back there with that door is difficult. There's a lot of trees back there, there's a lot of brush. We figured it'd be easier to, you know, instead of having to remove all of that back there. And then there was concern about the roosting of the bats, you know, they're the endangered bats. I don't know if they're roosting in those trees or not, but we didn't want to disturb that back area. So in terms of the dumpster, we would show what goes around it. You're looking for a drawing of that, or we were,
Yeah, so the plans need to be representative of what we've talked about.
Right.
You know, so the screening around the dumpsters you're gonna
Right.
want to show.
right?
Yep.
Oh, I thought he did. It's not on the plan.
It talks about screening, but it's a typical chain link with screen, dumpster enclosure with gate. So I
Kind of generic.
chain link isn't something that's acceptable. It's got to be able to physically screen.
Okay.
And this board, a lot of times you say, well, put slats in it. This board does not approve the slats. So it should be a you know, a solid wood fence or vinyl of that sort around it, an enclosure around it. And again, a detail would flesh that out, right? So that's why we need those details, so we can see what is proposed and, you know what's constructed. I'm just looking, is this the side of the building? All right, so there's not currently an opening. That's something
No,
you're going to be adding in?
That's right. Correct.
Again, you know, it's relatively narrow through here. I mean, to be, I'll leave it to you, but I mean, you know, someone's gonna have to back in and out
Right.
the entire length of that to get to that area. I understand. So I don't know, you may want to look at writing something a little bit different, maybe how that works internally for you.
Yeah, it doesn't with the septic system on the other side. I don't want to be driving over that.
Now, this stuff could get moved out here. I mean, these structures here are distribution boxes and underground tanks, et cetera. Those could get moved out. I mean, the other thing you've got, you know, I want a picture, you've got you know, these eaves here, you're gonna get snow and everything into that area, topping off the side of the building into that path. So again, I can't necessarily design this for you, but I'm just pointing some of these things out that hopefully we can think about.
Well, we've been, you know, I mean, getting in there and, you know, really looking at it. You know, the front half is, I really don't want to take heavy material through. So their operations are really the back 2/3 of the building. And the kilns are going to be located in the front part of that. And then the machines, you know, sort of 2/3 of the way. So, you know, our forklift really fits the best right in that back left-hand corner. And
Again, so that's fine. I mean, again, if you leave it that way, that's fine, but you do at least, very least, you need to move the shed so it meets the setback
yeah, okay,
requirement.
sure. We can twist it around the corner.
And there's
to the
other
back.
issues here, details and such that still need to be provided.
You know, I'm not an engineer and, you know, so I don't know exactly what, I mean, I'm assuming that he knows and that he got that information, but apparently he didn't. you
But
know.
no, he did get it
Oh, he
twice,
did.
and both times he indicated that those details would be developed at a later time.
And it needs to be done now before we approve it.
I'll pass that on to him.
Mr. Merzio? Mr. Procopio?
Okay, thanks.
Jermaine, anything? Mark, anything else?
No, I think that's, again, the other thing I just want to point out to you before we get it. So these signage is required for these,
And that would go on the fence. like, going on.
yeah, so you've got a fence here.
Right.
Again, that seems to me that's going to be encroaching into your access drive.
Yeah. We're not going to be using that access drive that much, maybe once a month, you know. We don't get a lot of deliveries, you know.
I would, I would get the revised plans over to Mark
Okay,
for review. And then we'll
All right.
hash this out and get you finalized and up and running.
so I'll go back to him. Can he contact you to make?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a site plan sketch review for the property at 901 North Main Street, a proposed smoke shed. Hi, Tim.
Good evening, Tim Coyer, Inusian Romans Land Surveying. I have smaller sheets if anybody wants to see them. Are we good? This is the existing site over there at Brewerton Road and Bear Road. So, or here's Route 11, Brewerton Road, here's Bear Road. It's the old Verizon building that we're looking to utilize as a smoke shop. Test. Oh, go. It's cutting in and out. I apologize. Might be how I'm holding it, but looking to utilize the existing building as a smoke shop. As I said, there's an existing access here. We would have 3 parking spaces here and 3 parking spaces here with a handicap space here. Basically redoing the existing parking situation that's on the site. I believe that I just got the county comments today. I wasn't able to look at them, so I wasn't able to review them in relationship to the site. But it's pretty straightforward. I have the hours of operation on the statement of use in the bottom left-hand corner. There's going to be roughly 2 employees on site at all times, and like I said, it's a smoke shop. It's not going to be too many people coming in throughout the day, so we think 6 are going to be adequate for the use of the site.
Mr. Rosito, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Abbey?
Is that open at the present time as a business?
So they're closed, okay? There's a little bit of a communication issue with the current lessees. They were told they could go in and just start by the owner of the property. And they went in and started redoing the building and redoing the inside. And obviously Steve caught that and basically said, hey, you got to come in here and put a put a site plan in. And they weren't aware of that, and that's why they did all the work already for the interior of the building, because they could just start going, so they didn't understand. They did contact me a few months ago, actually, and I'm so backed up, I apologize. It took me this long just to get the site plan into here because of the workload. So they have stuff in the building. They've redid the inside and they did a little bit on the outside already, but you know, they know now that they can't open until they get the site plan going.
That property is a terrible location to try and do something with.
It's a terrible, terrible site. There's no
Been through
doubt
this.
about it.
Been through this kind of before with, especially with that house behind there.
Yes.
It's almost out on the pavement.
Yep.
And in regards to the county's comment, I did get a chance to look at some of it.
Yes.
And then they make mention of looking into parking management strategy, shared driveways, fewer curb cuts, cross connections, and parking agreements. And they talk about possibility of putting in a sidewalk along Bear Road, reclaiming some asphalt areas into grass or landscaping.
So our site technically only has the one entrance over here. There is an existing curb cut for this site over here on right here. This is, I think both sites are owned by the same person. I can talk to the current owner and see what they will do as far as putting a cross access easement together for the both sites. Right now, we're not proposing any cross through access between the two sites. But if that's the case, if we do something with some type of cross access easement, maybe we'll open that up to potential and maybe cut this access down. But I gotta verify with the owner of the properties too that I'm personally working with the leasees and the applicants right now. So I'll have to try to get a dialogue going with the owner.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
Tim, are these people going to buy this piece of property?
No,
They're going to lease it
they're
from.
just leasing the property.
So the positive thing we got is both pieces of property are owned by the same individual.
Yes.
Actually, if we leave the parking the way it is right now with 4 or 5 spaces along the highway and then 4 or 5 that are within the boundaries, but it also then continues to open up the ability of driving from this property through his adjacent property to get out of it.
So I just want to, Mark, if you can go to the existing page, that should be sheet 1. So I understand what you're saying, but understand a lot of the existing parking there doesn't meet code and it's actually in the public right away. So it has to kind of go away. Sorry, I apologize. I got a little bit of a cold, so I'm trying to work through it. So the existing parking that's sitting like in here, this is their property line, this dark line right here. This is the property line, and out here is public right of way. And we can't keep these parking spaces in here because they're not parking at their property, they're parking in the public right of way. So that's why we had to redesign the parking spaces and keep them all on site. Some of these parking spaces, you know, these would be allowed, but like, see how they're going over the property line, we would still have to revise these type of thing. But we'd have to get the cross access in place before we propose that.
Okay, but wouldn't we have more parking spaces if we left the parking the way they currently are laid out on the north side, the north line?
So yes, you would probably have one, and I don't believe the width of these existing parking spaces meet code, to be perfectly honest with you. But yes, you could have probably the 6 or 7 parking spaces or 8 parking spaces right in here. But again, they'd have to be brought down. We'd have to make sure that they met code as far as the access between the building and the proposed parking and make sure there was some type of access in place. Because right now you only have this entrance, you have this entrance, and I don't believe that they own this piece of property over here, but I'll double check. So with these 2 sites here combined, you would only have the 2 entrances, and I believe New York State would probably want us to get rid of that one.
Would,
Yeah, see, it's a different entity. than these two. So this is a different entity that owns this property than these two properties. So we couldn't come through here and then leave out over here. We'd have to try to do something where we came in and turned around or something like along those lines.
I mean, the layout that you show right now, I don't know how you get off the property.
Mark, can you pull up the aerial, please? I've gotten there off of Bear Road before.
You can get off of Bear Road, like there's that one entrance between the two buildings and it's tight and it can be used, but I think New York State's talking about close off in that comment that
Well,
Chuck just talked about.
I would think they would, because the closeness to the corner.
Yep, so this is the site that we're talking about. Technically, the property, there's a property line right here. And there's a property line like right here. The problem with this, there's an entrance here. There's an entrance here. And there's an entrance here. You can't, because this property is owned by somebody else entirely. You couldn't come in here and then leave and go out here. That would be the ideal situation if all three properties were owned by the same entity. We'd come through and you'd leave out through here and you would close this access right here. You could, in theory, if we close this down, you could keep this here and come in through like this. But again, this entrance is really tight and not very ideal to utilize. Again, it's a very tight site.
I mean, I've used this store before when it was a Verizon
Yes.
store, and I actually went out through the piece of property that isn't owned by them, I guess. And basically that's what people did.
I think people are
That's
currently
what I
doing
did.
that right now. And if you look at the parking that's sitting right here, they're technically somewhat parking on the neighbor's property there. I can't propose using someone else's property. I just can't do that. I can try to talk to the property owner of ours to see if there's any type of dialect between these two and potentially get something, all three properties involved with some type of reciprocal easement. I can try that.
I think the owner of the property is going to have to do that because we have basically an impossible problem right now. I don't see how we can approve. I mean, the drawing you show here with a couple of spaces in the front that would have to back up and turn around to go out. I'm sure if we really asked DOT, they don't even like the driveway that's right there because they usually like those driveways to be 100 or 150 feet from
Oh, yeah.
the light. So, I
Typically.
mean, we don't want to antagonize DOT. So it almost behooves the owner of the properties, if he wants these people to have a business in that, he's gotta do something.
I'll talk to the property owner.
It's my belief it's is or was owned by Kevin Fear.
Yeah, these two are Mr. Fears, yes, but I don't believe this is. I'll double check. I didn't get into doing anything with this piece of property. And I mean, this is the current tax rolls as far as the ownership on there. It could be an entity that he owns, but I'll have to double check.
Mr. Bloss?
Tim, now what you're
Yes, sir.
saying as of right now, they're looking to enter and exit onto Route 11?
Yes,
Oh. Okay.
I
They-
understand.
But what they'll do right now, Don, if nobody does anything, they'll drive out toward the west and then
No,
turn on that driveway that's
I'm
on
familiar
somebody
with
else's
that.
property.
Yeah. Unless the guy puts a fence up.
Yep,
Right.
couple of bollards.
That communication with that property owner is pretty important. Probably.
Okay. Yep.
Mr. Bloss, you all set?
Yes.
Mr. Marizio?
Again, they didn't understand the process that they had to go through and they got me involved a few months ago. And again, it took me a while to get to this project. I apologize. I'm very backed up. So we did finally get them in here and they have been not operating, but they did a lot of improvements to the building throughout the time that I've been trying to work on this. So I just make sure the board knows a lot of it's on me because of my time frame.
Mr. Procopio? Thank you. Jermaine? Tough spot. Mr. Parrish?
I guess one of the county's comments was, potentially converting area into green space. I guess is the board also running a sidewalk along Bear Road, but so, if we look at the plan that was presented, this area in here is currently asphalt, but really isn't necessary for this plan as presented.
Right.
So does the board want them to pursue any sort of reduction in the asphalt in these areas and provision of green space and or landscaping? What are the board's thoughts on that?
It is, I drive through there. I used to I've driven through that spot. So although it's not shown, it was used. But if we can get green space, that's always a good thing, right?
Yeah, so I can look into, again, if we're gonna redesign this and potentially have this access through here, we can potentially get rid of some of the asphalt area in here. The existing sidewalk ends right here. This is all sidewalk down like this, and we can look at adding sidewalk. I don't know if this is enough room. I mean, it's tight, but we'll entertain putting a sidewalk in there.
I'm not, well, and again, I'm asking the question. I mean, the marginal benefit, it's not going anywhere. We've done it piecemeal previously,
Right.
but I'm not sure there's a whole lot of benefit here.
Yeah, if it could be worked out, it would be a good thing.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Next item on the agenda is site plan sketch review for the property at 5665 State Route 31. It's a proposed jujitsu and yoga studio.
There's nothing better than taking the microphone after the guy just said he had a cold, but that's okay today. My name's Daryl LaJudas, and this is my first time in front of the planning board. I was here once before, but there was just one judge in the front there in a black robe, but I'm here today. I'm the owner of 5665 State Route 31 in Cicero. It's just west of Route 11. It was formerly the Awning Mart building. My family's owned the property probably for 50 years. I've owned it for about 15 years. We've always had the same person in the building, and that was my brother, Doug, who bought the business from my father, Augie LaJudas, and he outgrew it and moved over to Gamlin's Trailer Sales over on Route 11. This is the first time the building's ever been up for rent. I've had many tenants call me on it to try to rent it. My business is located next door at 5683. I own Abel Smith Tent. So a good neighbor is important to me, obviously, as it is to the town. What we're looking to do here is really not change anything to the building itself. The structure will not change. We're not looking to add anything to the building. Except for a handicap parking spot and 4 additional parking spots to meet the current code based on the square footage of the building. Nothing will change with drainage. Nothing should change with anything else. We're going to add a couple lights in the front of the building because he had a lit sign on the building, and he removed that when he moved and took it to his new location. And so now I'm gonna put a couple lights in the front just to help the lighting situation in the front. I did get an email today from the county. The only thing that they had questioned was the location of the existing sign that's in front of the building that's been there for 30+ years. And they had, requested that be moved back. So today I'm looking for board approval to allow this jujitsu and yoga studio to move into this building.
Thank you. Mr. Rosito.
It's currently empty, nothing,
That's correct, yeah.
not changing the footprint. Any questions at the time?
Mr. Abbey?
Do you know how many customers they might have at certain times or maximum?
Yeah, so he had said to me, the couple that's proposing this to me had said that they'd have 2 staff and that they may have up to 15 students at a time.
That'd be about it then.
That's correct, yep.
And as the county suggested about moving the sign back, which assuming it's not a big deal.
It's not, no, I believe that it's legal non-conforming, probably the way that it's been there for so long, but if, the board can give me approval based upon moving the sign back, we certainly would agree to that, yep.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
You show business B and business A and a yoga studio in the middle. Are you proposing that the building will stay empty, waiting for the jujitsu studio to want more space? Or are you going to rent out the front or the back, or the front and the back?
So they've already expressed to me that the back is something that they would like to take now. Based upon the time frame that this is all taken together, they feel that they would be able to do that. In the front, I would wait on at this point. Worst case scenario, if 12 months, 18 months down the road that they didn't take it, it's not very big of a space. So it may be an architect, it may be a small insurance company, a 1-person operation, but nothing that I believe would add any more impact to what's happening there.
Well, you said there's 2 staff and maybe 15 students. Again, there's, even if you say 2 students came in each car, there could be a need for, say, 9 spaces for the jujitsu place. And then if you later had, the front of the building was a beauty salon or a lawyer's office, something, they'd need parking, and they would probably, it would be kind of difficult to park in the front along Route 31 if you actually have a door into the jujitsu, which is a number of feet down the side of the building. So I'm just wondering whether we have enough parking. Snow removal is not a problem for me on this site. You've got plenty of room. I take it is there thought about having more development on the rest of the site in the future?
Hopefully, that's the plan, yeah, but the reality is that past that shed that's on there is also all paved all the way to the back. So in reserve, we have it right now set up for parking in reserve in front of those 4 added spots. However, theoretically, we could go the whole 110-foot length. It's just a matter of more paint on the ground and striping it. It's already there. So I've got no problem if you guys.
As long as our engineer says that the space between the wall and the end of the paving is long enough for the car and the turnaround. So,
Yep, absolutely.
Mark's good at making those kind of measurements. Yeah, so I only have the concern relative to the parking at this point. Do we know that the entrance is what DOT would approve today? They've got to respond, don't they, to this project?
We're not changing any use. I mean, and actually it's less than what it was. So I don't know what that is, but it would be less than what the past use was.
I guess I'm Neil or Steve. Doesn't the state like to take a bite of the apple each time to make sure that what we're doing is meets current?
Usually the county puts that in their comments as well, and I didn't see that. Interested in me.
That'd be a question, if I were you, I'd ask, because you know, you don't want to get in there and then get them in there and then find out that you have another construction bill that you got to cover.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah.
I'm good.
Mr. Bloss.
I had a little concern on the parking, but obviously, looking at the pictures and the prints on that, you got more than enough space to continue north.
Absolutely. Yep. There's a lot of
Okay.
parking there.
I'm good with that.
The jujitsu, do they do like any competitions where they invite other?
I don't believe so. I believe that these people, what their plan is to do like children's groups and, you know, classes, that type of stuff. I don't believe that there'd be any competitions or that kind of stuff happening, right?
Can we get that note on the plans
Sure.
next time? Mr. Merzio.
Absolutely. A big portion of that's what would happen. Yeah.
Yeah, true. But then there's the A and B potential expansion.
Correct. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so back to your question, I guess, and then even if I guess there was some competition, it'd still be well under the code for occupancy,
Yeah, but
right? I
then
guess.
there's the parking issue again, right? Because if you got competition where parents are coming and watching, you got other kids from other facilities.
Oh, yeah, so the building, so that's a good question, I guess, to go back to that. So they've explained to me what their plan is inside, which is essentially to paint the building and lay some mats down. So there is no seating area. So if there is a competition, it may be two children, I guess, or two people in a competition, but it won't be a situation wherever there would be a large audience or, you know, a large gathering, anything like that. That would not be happening. The space is open. It's a wide open space, but it doesn't lend itself to have that. It's not high enough for a second tier or anything like that.
All right, so maybe just a description of the operation and what they're gonna do, you know, brief
Okay.
description on the thing. Yes. And again, it may just be a painting, you know, like you said, putting stripes down on the existing pavement to, if they're gonna do something like that.
To allow for
able to
more parking. there. Yeah,
accommodate that, right?
sure. Okay.
Yeah, then Steve will have his staff parked at the front door counting people.
$5. per
Right,
party.
Steve?
Steve, anything?
No.
Neil? Mr. Parrish?
I'll set this time. We'll review it and get comment.
Any questions from you?
My only question is, yeah, is it possible to get the board approval tonight or what are you looking forward to?
No, so Mr. Parrish will do his review. He'll get a copy of that review letter out to you and the rest of the board. And then based on that review, if any adjustments have to be made, then you would do those to the plans, come back, and at the next meeting, hopefully get an approval.
Okay, great. Very good.
All right.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Last item on the agenda is for a amended site plan for the proposed Dunn Tire Distribution Center at the Stewart Drive site. You were in the way of the airplanes, I hear.
We're in an airplane. Yes.
Bless
So give you a quick overview. We worked with CNS, with aviation, Mike Butler, to come up with a plan to avoid the area of transitional surface for Part 77 of FAA. What that's done has had to rotate our building, get our parking and our loading docks towards the airport, as you can see, and shove our building right to the northwest to meet the setbacks still for all this town setbacks, but also meet that transitional surface on the airport side. For not only the current runway, it's actually for a proposed runway. That's where the kicker is for us, where that's the thing. So since the last meeting, obviously you see the rotation, everything shoved. Steve and I have had some conversations about fire access. I believe he had a meeting yesterday and came up with some comments, which we did end up adding a front access across the front of the building along Stewart Drive. And the main reason for that is we needed to provide that 150-foot reach on the west side of the building where the Hoffman facility is. There is a parking lot there, but we needed to be able to put a fire truck on that front left corner and reach 150 foot. Stewart Drive, 150 foot in was not enough. So we had to have some sort of access there. We initially looked at just a drive in there. But we feel this is I think the drive-in does meet the intent of the code, providing that 150 foot dimension from each side of the building to cover the whole building. But, and it's less than 150 feet, so you don't need to worry about a turnaround. But I think this provides better access, knowing that it's, you know, a high piled, highly combustible material. So where you see that fire truck parked in the northwest corner, that is where the fire department connection is as well. It's right there. Yep, right there. So that's where the water line comes in. There's a fire department connection right there with a pump. So I believe it gives them good access there. And then there's a walkway from that to the building as well, right there to that door. So it also gives them a good point of connection. So I think we've added that. That was one of the major comments we were working through, knowing that we got the setbacks, we got the building away from the airport, meeting that maximum height for the 27 foot of the eaves and the 30 foot of the peak. So that's what we worked through. Parking's the same. It's same amount of parking, I should say. Loading docks, all that good stuff. Dumpsters, I think nothing changed. It just kind of spun around, shoved up to the northwest corner. Now, our stormwater though is now all the way to the east side with a basin all the way on the east side where the stormwater is trying to go today. It's trying to go out that northeast or northwest culverts. So I don't know if you guys have seen, so that's all based off this CNS drawing is where that building sits right now. And one thing to note, obviously, CNS has approved the proposed building location. The FAA is a full procedure thing that we're moving through right now. We actually did it back on October 15th with the old location. And again, the FAA hasn't given us a straight answer as if they worry about the new runway or not. This is a Syracuse Airport thing versus the FAA. We don't know that answer, but we've had many conversations with her. I've had one this morning. She has all the points and they're working through I think it's called the 7460 form. That's all been submitted. Back on October 15th, it was submitted. We had to modify it based on the newest layout. But we're waiting for that particular thing. But we wanted to get our comfort level up, and that's why the county has pulled in CNS to do this document, to get this in front of you with hopes of moving through the amended site plan portion. But obviously, contractor's not going to be able to build anything until the FAA gives them the okay, where we're at right now.
Paul, would you like to address the board? Paul Nertz with the North Syracuse Fire Department.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. I've only seen this for 6 hours, probably like you two. This amendment came pretty late. Where the tractor trailers are, is there a 90-foot circumference?
Gentlemen, can we use the mic, please?
Yeah, I want to confirm that, but yes, I believe because these are 60.
So this could be the turnaround for an apparatus,
Right,
if that's a
90
90.
right here.
Right, that's what the
Yep,
code
and it
calls
was
for.
Want to double check that? We can do is he only gets about 2 full-size tractor trucks, 30-foot box trucks. So we could show a couple to make sure we can get that 90, but I'll double check that right now.
And the other part of it could be if they could come in and turn here and back around, that could be that T turnaround
Yeah,
that the
that's
code shows.
my understanding is I have to park a fire truck right here. Anyways,
As conceivably, yes.
I have to make this turn into
Right.
here, park a fire truck and then back out and that isn't a dead end. Pulling up towards the office space is not considered a dead end, but they could back up and leave. I believe how it's set. I want to confirm, but I believe there is 90 feet there between the 140. So I think it's actually 80 feet right now. I think we have 140 feet from the building to here. Probably on here. I'll confirm that while you.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. The other thing I appreciate is a second bite at the apple for fire hydrant placement because of the high hazard here. While there hasn't been any firm determination of what, I haven't seen any determination of what the construction of the building is. So the construction of the building is important towards the fire flow, the water required to fight a fire here. So without those determinations we're guessing at what the fire flow is going to be. So I'm also considering that we may need a hydrant on both sides of the building where there is pavement access. So the fire engine that pulls up in that northwest corner will be used solely to supply water to the sprinkler system and put water directly on the fire. But then another fire engine will have to come to one of these access doors and it will need its own supply of water so that when the firemen enter the building to extinguish the fire, they have a constant supply of water. So that's why I think there's going to need to be at least 2 more hydrants, one on each side, which would be the east side and the south side. It looks, I'm doing this right, to make this suitable and safe for the firefighters to enter this building if it were to be on fire. I'm done.
All right.
Did you get all of that?
Yeah.
The fire hydrants?
Well, yeah, so I want to talk about the hydrants a little bit, what we have currently, and then see where things are at. Yeah, we obviously put one at the fire department connection. I don't know if you want to jump to plans, Mark. Yeah, it's right here. You see it right at the entrance there. It says proposed hydrant right at the entrance. So that's our fire department, the fire hydrant that we added purposely for the fire department connection. Now, you can also see the other hydrant, which is directly across the street, right above the S in Stewart, which is the one that was probably dedicated for the 500-foot spacing, I'm guessing, along Stewart Drive. Now, what I'm concerned about is if we have to put a hydrant on the south side of the building. We didn't have one before, but if we do that, it becomes a private hydrant. So it adds a little bit more challenge, right? It has to go into the building through backflow and then back out again of the building to do that. And that, I don't know what your take is on private hydrants and how that typically works with the fire department, but we're definitely not against if we want to add one at the other entrance and within the right of way of the town. We would.
You also need to meet these 100-foot, because the building is sprinklered, there has to be a hydrant within 600 feet of the exterior of all parts of the building.
Full length or straight?
Oh, not as the crow flies,
Okay.
because fire trucks don't fly.
Yeah. Well, it's for your hose, right? So you
Right.
can only pull 600 feet.
Right, that's the code requirement is 600 feet.
Right, so believe we meet that, because if you pull anywhere from even the hydrant that we provide, but you're saying that hydrant's gonna be in
Yeah,
use.
It's going to be dedicated to the sprinkler system, and then there's the whole rest of the building
Right, and then, gotcha, understood.
there.
Yeah, it just becomes, we have to make that a private,
Yep.
or an easement, which is something that's doable too. But even, so if this hydrant was here,
It is there.
yep, and if this pole length here would have to go all the way from here to there.
Yeah, so the building is 250 feet across.
Yep.
So when you come across here, this is at least 250 feet. Here's 250 feet, you're up to 500 feet.
Yep.
You can't make that 600-foot requirement without adding another hydrant.
And up here would, if I could satisfy that, and not just satisfy it, obviously we want to make sure you guys. Up here, this wouldn't.
I'd rather have time to
Okay.
think about this. I mean, 6 hours ago is not a lot of time.
No, yeah, I agree. So, and obviously their needs are very important to us
Yeah.
and
absolutely.
you, I'm sure. So
We want to meet the code, but then obviously we want to, whatever is within reason to do.
I'll take some time to review and then share your information with Steve and
Thank you. And, you know, we are not obstructionists. We're just, this is going to be very important, that the firefighting aspect of this building is as close to correct as we can get it.
Absolutely.
totally agree.
And I think that that'll even more shake out with the building permit process too.
Right.
During
Right.
that process, more input and more input's going to happen because not only just where a hydrant is, it's where the FET sits.
Right.
Where-
All that stuff is
Yeah.
still to come.
Right, so I don't know if, you know, obviously a hydrant location can be added, and if we have to end up doing a hydrant down here, and I don't know how the town works, Mark, if that could be within an easement. We've done that before, like Raymore and Flanagan, I remember doing it with,
You'd have to coordinate that with the water.
put it within an easement. In other words, so it becomes a town's hydrant, and then
public.
it's not public, or not
Right, not
private,
private.
which adds a lot, because private hydrants are tough, because the maintenance and stuff, you just don't know. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
That's what we would look into.
Good. Yeah, so we'll just work it out so that Paul's happy. When Paul's happy, we're happy. Relative to,
Can we make you happy first and Paul happy later at the building permit stage? Which, yeah.
If you want to, if you want to
But-
include in your stipulation that there is discussion about hydrant placement, the rest of this, we're okay.
Counsel?
Other stuff. There might be other stuff too, so we'll see where it goes.
Thank you for your time.
Kind of
Thank you.
important.
Have a good evening.
you're the same. So, with that, we'll open up to the board questions. Mr. Rosito?
Still a little confused about the FAA flight path or runway.
Transitional, yeah, surface. there.
Future runway,
Future.
potential future. runway.
Yeah. Where, yeah.
Yeah, what it is, it's 500 feet from the center of the future runway. There's a 7-on-1 slope that goes from that point up. And you can't have a building anywhere in that 7-on-1 slope. So every 70 feet you move gains 10 feet in elevation. And it hurts you if your site's higher. It is, we're higher than the runway by, the runway is at like 414 and our site's at a 421.
So if they can basically stop your project, or you just have to keep the building low enough to be.
Exactly. That's what you see here. You see that line on the right-hand side there, the two center lines, that blue line that's vertical in the section shows a, you see it, whatever that button is. That shows the center line of the runway. 500 feet over is that dimension. And then our building is that hatched area. And that red line is the transitional surface line. That's a 7-on-1 slope from 500-foot level off the runway center line. So it's significant. It's very close to other buildings over there, very close.
And when are they gonna have that answer or determination?
It's federal, so,
Yeah.
very
Good
easy to
luck.
talk to. I've spoken with her 25 times. They just say you just keep checking back with us and it's up to 45 to 60 days. So that's why this was done though, this that you're seeing up here. Obviously, we're trying to get everything situated, feel confident in it, but, and as I mentioned before, this is off the center line of a future runway. So that's not necessarily maybe what the FAA is looking at. They couldn't give me that straight answer. I've asked that multiple times, like, because if you look at their portal, the FAA filling out the form 7460, and you select, do I need to apply? They only show the one runway and they show a hatch area. They don't show this future runway, which we were within. If you look at the runways, the runway that we're against is parallel to us. That's that red line. The other runways run at an angle to us today. So that line would be not close, not as close.
Go underground.
Have to push it down, which is the problem here with the stormwater. So we can make it work. If we keep pushing the building down, it just becomes more expensive. So we went to what CNS has directed in terms of meeting that transitional surface. If the FAA comes back with some reason, we have the ability to just push it down or not to.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder?
I read the FAA stuff. I mean, it's just say federal government, I understand, and nothing else I can, I think the building itself and what you've done the fire flow, relative to water flow. Your report says that, it's fine, but you are gonna put a fire pump in the building, correct?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, they're working through that and like nothing changed from the last approval other than rotates, pushback. We did some stormwater differences that Mark obviously knows, just because of the distances and how we could get around from the back parking lot around. We had to put some catch basins in. But the concept and the site itself, setbacks are very similar. Everything in terms of the building is the same, parking lot, everything. It's just picked up all the pieces and put them back down again.
I'm good.
Abby?
Hi, welcome back. Just had a couple of quick questions. This is warehouse and distribution, I assume.
Right.
Are they in the area now? With the same facility?
Not that I know of. Rochester, the same
Oh, that's a
building in
se-
Rochester.
Closest one then? Okay. I'm sure we addressed it before, just to refresh my memory. How many employees were they planning on?
Let me grab. Or no, 15 that come in and grab a truck and leave. So they're like your Sprinter trucks, your 30-foot box trucks and stuff like that. They're the delivery people. I believe there's 15 on
Site?
40 employee spaces that it is. I believe there's 35 that are planning. I have it written down here somewhere. One second.
That's close enough.
Okay. So yeah, and then 25, I believe, is the number of full-time people that are actually there. And again, we only see very low numbers. I have them right here somewhere. So right here, okay. About 8 full-size trucks a week is all you see, like
What's that?
53-foot tractor trailers. Most of this is your Sprinter trucks. There's 40 Sprinter trucks a day going in and out.
Okay.
That's that traffic. And 2 larger 30-foot box trucks a day.
There's a lot
So-
of activity.
A lot of activity, but not a lot of big trucks. He says at the end of the day, you won't see any trucks parked in there, big ones, full-size tractors. You'll see all his Sprinters and his box trucks parked in those spaces.
There to begin with.
Okay. And did you find out if the adjacent property is the hot dog sausage people?
It is, yeah.
Okay, then not to beleaguer a tiny point, but still spelt wrong.
Well, he wants to change the name of it because he's trying to buy it.
Oh, the Hoffman, I mean, as well.
No, yeah, no, he wants to buy that building so we can get better access on the west side.
Okay.
So for expansion later, but
I'm sure he'd like his name spelled right.
yeah, we'll get that.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if that's for me or the surveyor.
Not you.
Mr. Bloss?
I'm all set.
Mr. Marizio?
On page 2. Oh, of the other.
Chuck, are you still asking questions? I'm sorry.
No, I'm all set. Thank
Okay.
you.
Steve?
Good, thanks.
Dale? Mark?
No, nothing at this time.
Mark, you said there's 40 Sprinter trucks that go out?
No, 40 a day trips.
Okay,
think there's
we're not looking for 40 trucks that park on the lot at the end of the day.
15 is, I think, the number. That's where those 15 employees come in.
Okay.
They park in the loading, like they actually park up to the door.
All right, so we're all set
See,
for now?
so the direction from you guys right now is you are looking for a couple changes. One, hydrants. Figure out the hydrant system.
Take care of the fire department needs.
Yep. And what are we looking at in terms of FAA approval? Are you guys satisfied with the CNS?
Care?
Yeah, do
we care?
Right.
That's your concern.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And that's my understanding is so you want us to come to the next meeting or whenever we're on the agenda next and propose the fire, make sure the fire department's happy.
I would
Okay.
just,
And-
before we get the building permitting going.
Oh, yeah, obviously we don't, Yeah, we don't want to go build the building and nobody does, but they want to,
And Mark will
finish
do
it.
his review.
yeah, we want to finish the funding and finish the IDA, and finish the closing and like work through that. So, okay, I just want to make sure we understood that. I'll explain that to the owner that we're,
It
he was
should be-
worried about, he's like, we don't want to keep going to the town waiting on FBAA because you know how all that,
yeah.
so,
Our process should be fairly simple, given we've already done this, just
couple
tweaking
changes.
it a little bit.
We'll talk to Mark. All right, perfect.
That concludes our agenda items. Does any of the board members have comments? Questions? We have a motion to adjourn?
No move.
Second.
Meeting is